All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Excess Succeed. This is Gearface. I am joined today by my good friend Blue. Blue, thank you so much for being here.
It's always a pleasure.
Glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it, even after all of these many lessons together, that it's still at least somewhat enjoyable. We are returning back from whence we came on this episode. We're talking about Sagat today, one of my favorite characters from Street Fighter. Um, way back, I know I've told this story before. I will tell it again, and I will tell it again after this as well. Um, Way back in 2022, a very young, impressionable Gearface was running a tournament, brand new to the Exceed community, was completely burnt out, just could not keep going. And a lesson from the aforesaid Blue on the aforesaid character Sagat, parentheses, and also Bang, who was cool too, completely revitalized my interest in Exceed. Um, and without those lessons, I probably wouldn't still be in the community, and we certainly wouldn't have Access Exceed uh, as a concept, as something to look forward to every time I get to do it. So really excited to be coming back to Sagat. A couple disclaimers, as always, before we get started. Number one is I think that you should play Exceed for fun. On this show, we talk about playing Exceed to win. Sometimes those things overlap, sometimes they don't. If anything that we're saying doesn't sound fun to you, you are under no obligations to play that way. And I recommend that you don't. I recommend you play in a way that you do find fun instead. You'll have more fun doing it if you can believe it. You'll play longer. You'll probably get better in the long run. Disclaimer number two is that we don't know everything. We tend to talk on this show in pretty prescriptive terms. You're going to hear a lot of always do this and never do that. Take all that with a grain of salt. Like I said, Exceed's not a solved game. We don't know everything. Um, find your own lines of play with this character. He is, I understand, pretty flexible and pretty varied in how he can beat the crap out of his opponents. So, the way that you evaluate his kit might be very different from the way that we evaluate his kit, and that is totally fine. Yeah. All that said, Blue, I would love more than anything to hear a little bit more about Sagat.
Well, you know how Exceed is like a resource management simulator,
Yeah,
among other things?
yeah.
Well,
There's other stuff too.
congratulations. Sagat is a very intense accounting lesson that also gets to punch the opponent with Tiger Knee.
Okay. So in the past, you and I think it's going to sound like I'm going one way with this question, and it's going to actually end up going. I'm going to swerve on you. We've talked about a character before who has a lot of similarities to Sagat, and clearly the character that I'm talking about is Vega, who you similarly described as being, the most intense resource management, the tightest budget, to the point that you uh, prepared a diagram for me about the nuances and intricacies of Vega's economy. Are we talking in those terms on this lesson? Like, am I that much of a shoestring budget character?
Not quite, because if you look at something like Tiger Shot, for example, you can see that this generates a gauge.
Yep.
So we already have, and also kit context, ability. You can set this face up, 5
Yep.
speed, fairly safe.
Yep.
So we at least have, some safe gauge generation tools. Vega also has one, but it's like on rolling crystal flash, and it has a bit more awkwardness in it than this.
Yep.
We also, unlike Vega, have just good shapes.
Okay. So Vega's I guess we can define Vega's game plan or characters like him, their game plan, as being like, if they don't have resources, they don't get to participate. Right? They don't get to play at all. Sagat, it sounds like, is more reasonable without them, but in order to kind of rise above the rest of the pack, he sort of really needs to spend carefully.
Yeah, what sets good Sagat play apart from bad Sagat play is all of the resource management decisions that you make throughout playing a game, which also means that Sagat is a very easy character to make mistakes with.
Okay. So you're going to be this is something that Rose talked to me a lot about when we were learning about Rachel. You're going to be you have a lot of opportunities to optimize. You have a lot of on Rachel, you have a lot of like spending opportunities. You have a lot of places to spend force, and those could be advancing your game plan, but then you find out 5 turns later that if only you had one more force, you could win the game right now. Um, Sagat, it sounds like kind of forces you to walk a similar tightrope.
Yep, he doesn't have quite as many forced decisions to make as Kokonoe, but he does, or not Kokonoe. Kokonoe has a lot as well, as Rachel, but he does have a few.
Okay.
And where he sets himself apart from a character like Rachel, and actually this is closer to Kokonoe, it's kind of convenient that I mentioned her accidentally, is
Nice.
he's more of a gauge management kind of boy. So like, I guess let's start talking about, one of the ways we can spend our gauge, the exceed action. So 3 gauge to flip, and I guess just like for the cliff notes, our ability is really good. It basically on our turn allows us to freely get +1 speed. +1 speed plus initiating is not that dissimilar to just having light as your character ability. And the cost of needing to set it face up is not very high because, like, if you set a thing that's going to win anyways, it doesn't matter if the opponent knows that it's going to win anyways.
Right.
It just means that they are going to be able to play to mitigate.
Right. And
And
before we, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
in that regard, similar to Equus,
There we go. Okay, that's where I
we
was.
can
That's where I was going.
yeah, we can use our ability to do forcing plays by saying like, well, I'm going to face up sweep. This is a very answerable card, but if you answer it, you might be putting yourself in a worse position.
Hmm. And okay, I've already sort of parted the veil here a little bit. Viewers at home, I have had this lesson before about 3 years ago. Okay, they cross out of sweep. What could Sagat possibly be doing with an opponent who's crossed out? Right, like this is a card of all time. I'm sure we'll get to it. So the play here is Sagat does something that is hard to answer. Um, if the opponent answers it, they might be playing into his hands anyway. And if they don't answer it, cool, he got what he wanted.
Yep.
Okay. You mentioned Equus. The the obvious comparison here. I'm sure there will be plenty on our Equus lesson. I like it. The comparisons make themselves right. I'm initiating face up. Equus has +2 power. Sagat has +1 speed. This is a consistency tool. This is a kill you tool, right?
Yep.
Um, when Sagat is doing it, it's making it more likely that the thing that he's initiating with face up is going to land, right? It's just not as backbreaking as when Equus does it. Does that make it more free to initiate face up than it would be on Equus?
That depends on a lot of factors. Is the really short answer.
Hmm.
Uh, Basically, what we want to look at is the number of things in our kit that read if they go first, they win the strike, and then do that times the number, and then like how often +1 speed makes it so that they will go first and win the strike, and that is how much this ability just like does that.
Right. Sure. And so on the Equus lesson, the sort of first order approximation that you gave me was I should be using this ability more often than I think. Um, more often than I think I should. Sagat, at baseline, I shouldn't be using it less than I use Equus's ability. Correct?
Yep,
Okay.
that same advice applies. When you were first learning Sagat, you should probably be face upping almost every strike, and I think that in the end you will find that most of the time you will want to face up anyways because +1 speed is pretty good. And back to ways to spend gauge,
Yes.
+1 speed and +1 power is really fucking good.
Yeah. Swift is a good boost. Swift now strike is a 1 force ultra boost on some pretty good characters on Bang, for example. Um,
Yeah.
okay. So that's awesome, right? It's +1 power in Exceed is not backbreaking most of the time. Um, I'm looking at some of my, this goes from 5 to 6. Uh, this goes from 4 to 5. Those could be relevant breakpoints. They often aren't. Is this just when I exceed, am I just hitting that little bit harder and it's just going to improve my ability to trade? Or I'm not thinking about this the way that Akuma is thinking about his exceed mode, for example.
Yeah, you're mostly not buying breakpoints, although you are notably buying a breakpoint on low step kick, tiger destruction, sweep, arguably low tiger shot, and there are relevant breakpoints that are able to be met because of the exceed mode with tiger knee, but they're more specific.
Sure.
But
There,
like
there,
low
there.
step kick and tiger destruction especially become meaningfully better in exceed mode.
Okay. Okay. So, and I mean, it, to your point, it's not. You said you're not buying breakpoints, and then you proceeded to list off like quite a few examples of cards that get substantially scarier in exceed mode. Um, but in reality, if I'm okay with initiating face up as this Sagat, there's no reason I wouldn't be okay initiating face up with this Sagat. It's just again at floor, it's this but slightly better.
Yeah, and the really scary thing that the exceed mode offers you is calling back to some of the first lessons I did with you outside of the pilot episodes, I guess.
Right. The
Uh,
unrecorded, unreleased Gearface had a different voice actor back in 2020. You're talking about like the Guilty Gear lessons?
yeah, so like Sol and May
Mm,
and to a degree Giovanna, those characters all can pull out advantage chains, and the bits of power that they can buy, like for May and Sol, it's like plus two, plus two, plus two.
right.
Those add up very quickly. Sagat can't literally do the same thing, but he can get very close. And so like a plus one power assault into a plus one power tyranny, both of those fairly difficult to actually meaningfully answer. That's instead of being a 9 damage advantage chain is a 11 damage advantage chain,
Right.
and like 11 is a lot for two
Yeah.
attacks to do in sequence without the opponent having an opportunity to respond.
Sure. That can matter. So I mean the next question I was going to ask is like this seems meaningfully better than my exceed mode or than my frontside mode. I'm not sure if it's 3 gauge better. But similar
Yep.
to like a Baiken or a Giovanna where like or an Eno, for example, where like I'm spending 3 power. I'm spending three gauge to get 1 power. And that isn't a great rate until you look at what those characters can do with it. Similar story with Sagat?
Yes, asterisk. There's also the reason why we have one of the best kickers ever printed on this
Right.
character.
Okay, so this is also just buying me this is refunding my gauge even if the +1 power isn't enough to be a
Yeah,
compelling use case for it.
this is card velocity, positioning, a small but meaningful upgrade to your ability. It's lots of things all packed into one very nice, very appealing 3 gauge package.
Right. Okay. So, in terms of what my money is buying me in the moment, I get at maximum 2 force worth of movement, 2 force worth of card draw. I've already made up just from the kicker alone. I've made up the cost of the exceed, assuming that I wanted to back up. And then
Yep,
on top of that, I've got bonus power.
yep.
Okay. Um, without the kicker, is exceeding particularly worth it as Sagat? Like if I'm in the corner and I've already got a full hand size, for example, should I just be waiting on exceeding until I can make use of that kicker because it's like a big part of the value I'm getting for the gauge?
In that specific situation, you should probably like take the walk action first
Right.
to uncorner yourself. And good news, you've now spent like 3 cards out of your hand taking the walk action.
How
So
convenient. Yeah, I'm going to make them back. Okay. Um, is all this the fact that we're talking about the exceed mode so early in the game, the upside of the kicker, all of that stuff? Does that mean that by default I should be planning to exceed as Sagat in every game?
it's definitely something you want to do in every game. Anyways, would you like to talk about the reasons why we don't exceed every game?
Yeah, I would love to know other interesting resource decisions I'd like to make.
All right, so let's talk about some fucked up ultras. I don't usually talk about these first, but I think it's important to convey very quickly. Gauge management is important. Here's one of the dumbest 2 gauge ultras ever conceived. This gives
Uh,
a lot of Red Horizon ultras a run for their money on how much you're buying for 2 gauge.
So three to four, uh, better in the corner. 7-5 or 7-6 on initiation. So it's already above curve and it's already beating sweep.
Yep.
Okay, for 2 gauge.
Yep.
Okay. On a character who has Tiger Shot.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty good, Blue.
Yep. It's it's a really silly ultra. And obviously it becomes better in exceed mode, but 7 power is pretty fucking good. And you can, use it to confirm a spite, use it to confirm a fierce. Lots of great things. It's already above curve. This makes it more above curve. This makes it more rewarding. So it just beats slows period.
Right.
So lots
And
of good things you can do to scare the shit out of the opponent with Tiger Destruction for a fairly low cost to entry.
and even if they and this is going to be something that like I'm not going to say it every single time, but every time you hear one of us say like it's above curve, what are they going to do? And the answer is cross out. No, they're not. Like if you initiate, you can't even cross out of Tiger Destruction. But even playing it on defense, someone spending their turn and their strike to cross out from Sagat to try to bait out a Tiger Destruction is taking their life into their hands.
Yep, because if he didn't play it, then you got so owned.
Yeah, then
If he
you
did play it, then
you might lose the
congratulations.
game. You might lose the game based off of that failed read.
Yep.
Okay. Um. Okay. So this is 2 gauge. This is 3 gauge. Um. I'm a Street Fighter character. I know that I have criticals as well, and I know we'll get to those in a second. But um, is my gauge again harkening back to the Vega lesson? Is my gauge generation good enough that I can juggle these two things and still have something left over for regular upkeep?
Like for criticals,
I mean, criticals,
yes.
changing cards, like a third thing, whatever that third thing is. Thinking back to the the Vega quadrangle. Go watch that lesson if you haven't seen it, folks. It's very good. Um, am I so starved for gauge that if I do this and this, I'm done, or is there more that I can do?
You might have like 1 or 2 gauge left over. I don't think you should be spending gauge for universal game actions as Sagat very often.
Okay, okay,
And similarly,
so
that means you might just sometimes have to prepare.
right, sure, okay, so changing cards, moving should come from my hand whenever possible. Um, I this is 3, this is 2. So I should be looking at over the course of a game building grand total of like 7-ish gauge on a good day. Not all at once,
Yeah,
but like
yeah, that's probably about right.
that's around where I should be aiming. Okay, that makes sense.
You could
Um,
probably swing higher, but also like why play in ways that are going to generate more gauge for less effect
right.
is
Sure.
like basically my thinking as far as that goes. Which
Sure.
like
And
mind you, you have at least one boost that is a battery boost and then one attack that is a battery attack.
right.
So it's also a lot about if you're hitting these or not on what your gauge economy is going to exactly look like.
Sure. Okay. And you started this conversation off by saying that like Sagat with gauge is like that's uh, so the way that he's different from Rachel is that Rachel needs raw force, just total number of things to spend. Sagat needs gauge, and it's a big reason why are things like this.
Yep.
Okay,
And then, we've talked about the 2 threshold and 3 threshold. Let's talk about the 4 threshold now. Here's Tiger Cannon. Tiger Cannon hides a lot of its text behind a completely different attack. So,
right,
this is not a 4/5 power ultra. This is a, like 10 power ultra.
10 or 11, yeah. So 2 to 5, 4, 6, push 3 and gain advantage. Okay, so if they're anywhere except range 1, I am gaining advantage and setting up, and also it's probably 7 speed, not 6 speed, if that matters for some reason. And then I'm setting up this, which is a I kill you at range card.
Yep.
Um, I have so many questions about low Tiger shot. I have so many questions about Tiger Cannon. Um, the way I'm going to ask those questions is by, of course, harkening back to another conversation that we've had, this one about Ken. You, in the Ken lesson, you talked a lot about like true master Shinryu Ken, like that kind of default thinking of the Ken line, where this is how you quote unquote play the character, and this is how this is the line for him, and you were pushing back very hard on that line of thinking, right? Um, I see a lot of commonality between boost true master, hit with Shinryu Ken, and hit with this, hit with this, hit with this, hit with this, right? Um, that I do that. I have 4 gauge. I do that. I'm at range. I play low tiger shot. That's like a bespoke combo that I can do and just maul my opponent with it. Um, we shouldn't end the lesson now, right? There's clearly more to Sagat than that.
Yeah, the bad news is that Sagat has shit mobility. He has god awful mobility, which means that you are not consistently able to actually be in position where you can play Tiger Shot, which means you're not consistently in position where you're able to play Tiger Cannon, which means you're not consistently in position where low Tiger Shot is actually a credible threat outside of the threat of if you ever run away, I kill you.
Right. Okay. So, um, this is it a pipe dream then? Is it something that I will ever hit, or only if my opponent like really really messes up?
If you are really, really dedicated to playing the LTS meme line, where this is all you do, um, you can definitely do it. You are going to be committing a lot of resources to it, so I don't often do it myself because I am a very lazy Sagat player.
Okay.
I have seen people do it with more success. What it probably entails is making sure you keep both of these live so that you can do QBD into Tiger Cannon
Right.
once you have built your gauge, and like then basically your only setup requirement past having those 3 cards in your hand and also making sure the opponent doesn't have any copies of Focus Live anymore
Right.
is like getting to 4 gauge, which we got tools.
Sure.
We got tools to do that.
Okay. So it is definitely possible, but if we're not thinking about the like laser focusing on the tiger line, um, what this card does in the meantime is says my sweep is really good because you can't cross out of it. Um, this uh, face up range 3 dive is really good, even though I know that you have a cross because you're afraid to play it. Like when you're talking about forcing plays with my character ability, I guess the other way that I can think about this is like this is a force them not to play. I'm
Yep,
a character who you just can't cross out of. So is that, first of all, is that accurate? Um,
that is fairly accurate. Yeah.
okay. And when we're thinking about Sagat in that way, assuming kind of a non-compliant opponent who won't let me play low tiger shot, which is to say someone who's watched this lesson, um, uh, under those conditions, is it realistic to be going for a low tiger shot, or is it really just the threat of it that's going to animate the rest of my game plan?
Hey, did you know that run and backstep are very efficient movement boosts?
That's a really good point. Okay. So again, forcing play, right? I backstep back. I have the mother of all cannons aimed at I guess this is the cannon. I have the mother of all guns. He doesn't have a tiger gun, right? No. Aimed at my opponent. They need to come in. Or they're gonna get hit by this.
Yep,
So again, the threat of LTS will make my opponent spend cards, and then I can take advantage of that.
yep.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Um, if I do throw a low tiger shot as a mix up, for example, as a mix up, Sagat is not really a mix up guy. He's a make you have it guy, I guess. But um, when I do, am I critting it? That's a pretty good critical.
Probably not.
Okay. The gauge is
It
too
depends.
important.
Yeah, it depends on a lot of factors, but probably not usually.
Okay. I mean, I guess the way I can think of like +1 power is cool. I like that. Um, but it's like I'm paying a gauge to draw a card, right? It's a resource conversion, not a resource generation when I do that.
And you will find that that is a consistent theme for some of Sagat's crits, and some of his other crits are the ones I'll describe as being gamble core crits.
All right, sounds good. Um, okay, so we this was all a sort of diversion from talking about his various ways to spend gauge. So we've got a really messed up 2 gauge alt. We've got a pretty cool exceed mode, and then we've got a 4 gauge ultra that can set up a really really messed up card. Um, you don't sound like you're super enthusiastic about the Tiger Cannon into LTS line in the first place. Does that mean that you're kind of rarely playing Tiger Cannon in general?
Oh, I love playing it. But the thing about Sagat is that if you're married to a specific game plan, um you're opening yourself up to a lot more potential counterplay than if you keep yourself more flexible.
Okay. So, uh, if it's a game, like you might be thinking to yourself after a handful of turns when some interactions have happened, I'm beginning to suspect that this is an exceed mode game, or I'm beginning to suspect that this is a Tiger Cannon game, and leaving myself open to being willing to swap between lines of play um, based on the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. And are those lines of play pretty much just defined by what my gauge payouts are? Am I using the rest of my cards in a different way based on how I'm deciding to play Sagat? Or am I like, is option one this, maybe this and this, option two, this and this, and that's kind of where the differences end?
I think it's closer to the ways that you have played the game leading up to the points where you actually are reaching your gauge thresholds are going to determine which of your gauge payouts you should actually be pursuing.
Okay. Okay. Um, Anecdotally, I can confirm very strongly what Blue's saying because I remember very early in my Exceed career, if people can believe it, I actually have played Exceed. Um, I remember hitting for 7 cleanly with a Tiger Destruction, and then thinking back later on, I lost that game. Thinking back later on and realizing that that cost me the game was playing this. I think I also exceeded and doing those two things um, in a situation where I didn't have an out for it. I didn't have a way to actually close the game out. Um, I spent all my resources doing what was clearly two very good, strong things, but it wasn't the right game for it. So is that the kind of thing you're talking about, Blue? First of all,
Yeah.
okay.
It,
Any
and also more broadly, it's like, oh well, like over the course of the games, I needed to like boost my spites, which means I have like more gauge, but also I don't have Tiger Knee, which is one of the more appealing use cases for our Exceed mode, is just being able to hit the opponent for 6 and gain
right?
advantage,
Okay,
stuff
okay,
like that.
okay. Sure. Um, so just what I draw, what I spend, what I need to spend is going to dictate what which of these things are important. Um, Is there any advice you can give just broadly about how to navigate those different lines of play, or is it so broad that it's just like IDK find out for yourself?
Once again, I will emphasize that predictability is the enemy. Should
Okay.
not be predictable, even with a character who, where
Who's face up?
the goal is to tell the opponent what you're doing as much as possible. Um, Tire destruction is really fucking stupid. It's extra stupid when you're in exceed mode. This is like a decent default. This
Okay.
also opens you up to, after you exceed, doing tiger assault into tiger knee into like sweep, and that's like, I don't know, 20 damage or some shit.
It's probably enough.
And at any point in that advantage chain, you can do QBD into tiger destruction.
Hmm. Right. Hit for 8 instead of 7.
Yeah, yeah.
Stun focus at the same time. Okay. So it sounds like the reason that I'm defaulting to the like this is like a weak default, right? This is something that I'm not going to do 90% of games, but maybe it's something I do 60% of games, is because it's not necessarily stronger than or more threatening than this line, but it leaves my options open the most. It's like the most um applicable to the widest variety of situations that I'll find myself in. Is that fair?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Um, and then, uh, okay. I'm just trying to think. And is there anything else about like the overall game plan, the gauge payout based game plan that we should be talking about before we get into whatever is next?
No,
Okay,
I think we basically covered it.
sounds good. Where to next then?
Let's talk about the bad card,
Yeah,
so we
this one
can
doesn't
talk
have
about epic
Tiger
cards
written on it.
afterwards. Yeah, yeah. The ironic thing is despite this not being a tiger technique, I'll call it, low step kick is actually a very important command normal for Sagat within the context of Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5
Hmm.
because he can kara cancel out of low step kick into like tiger uppercut, and it very heavily extends the range of his tiger uppercut. Um, so it's kind of funny that this is as bad as it is, but it does do a thing. Anyways, let's talk about the thing that it does.
Yep.
Um, it's an ignore guard card that is speed 5 and also is 1 to 3.
So
It
on
loses
cur-
to focus, but it does allow you to filter sweep on defense fairly safely.
okay, okay. So on curve ignore guard is good stuff. Um, I I wouldn't necessarily. It sounds like if I'm using it on defense, I'm not um doing it face up, obviously, and I it sounds like you are not super enthusiastic about playing this card as on your turn.
Not usually. Sometimes you are forced into a situation where you need to defuse something, and low step kick is the answer to that.
Okay, but it's when your opponent's forcing you to do it. Otherwise, you probably have something better to do.
Yep. And
Okay,
also, like EX low step kick with crit, obviously, always play this card crit if you're playing it at all.
right.
Um, is basically unbeatable and is like a very potent defensive option and also like a reasonable offensive option. It's not amazing, but it exists. And then
Yeah,
obviously in Exceed mode, it suns focus if you crit it, which means it has like a thing that it does. It still isn't very satisfying.
right. It
Um,
it it probably doing it that way wins you combat for free, quote unquote for free, because what you're spending is your turn and a gauge for the crit, and neither of those are like that's not free at all, actually.
yep,
Okay, and you're hitting for 3 in the process, which is not incredible.
yep.
Okay. Um. All right. So it probably speaks fairly well to the rest of Sagat's card quality then that his worst card, the meme card, is just something that often wins combat for free, quote unquote for free.
Yep.
Okay, that's a good thing to know. Um, in practice, other than the use cases you've described of like specifically playing it on defense to filter a sweep, maybe in Exceed mode to deal with everything, or holding it as an EX to deal with everything on defense, you're pretty much ignoring low step kick as an attack.
Oftentimes, yeah. And
Okay.
similarly, I'm going to move into the next card while talking about the boost because the boost specifically shouts out Tiger Uppercut.
This is
So
that's very weird actually in Exceed. I can't think of any other um there's one on Byakuya. I can't think of many other boosts that like specify another card in particular. That's not common.
yep, it's very, very weird. It is technically accurate to what it does in the game, which is it's a special move that makes it so his next Tiger Uppercut has more juggle potential and higher damage.
Right. If
Anyways,
you're
let's like figure out what that means within the context of Exceed.
yeah, if your next attack is Tiger Uppercut, a card over here, it has +2 power, +2 speed, +2 guard, and is critical. That's a lot of text, and that's a lot of stats. There's gauge saving on that. That is a huge amount of value on a boost. I think. Uh,
Potentially. Anyways, it's really funny on Uppercut because Tiger Uppercut is not the Ryu I am faster than Cross so I anti-air it style DP. This is the I am slower than what the opponent is playing, so I armor through it and then punch them, style of DP. So making it faster is not actually very helpful, strictly speaking.
Right. Okay, so I'm noticing a pretty significant after effect here, lose all armor, which you
Yep,
get at speed timing. So
yep,
if this is a 6 speed card, if I don't uh if I don't stun the opponent, I'm going to be taking more damage than I would if it was a 4 speed card.
yep.
What?
Anyways, Anchor Charge is kind of a meme. It does have reasons for you to play it. If you have EX Tiger Uppercut, it is very scary because now it is a 1 to 2 7 7,
That's pretty good.
and who care? Yeah, who cares that it doesn't have armor at that point? And similarly, if you're in Exceed mode, then you can threaten functionally the same, like, oh, I'm going to hit you with a 1 to 2 7 7 if the opponent passes turn back to you, which means they have to actually deal with it then.
Right.
Which normally they're going to do by like parrying Tiger Uppercut or something.
You're telegraphing pretty hard that the next thing you're doing is Tiger Uppercutting them by playing the boost that references Tiger Uppercut directly.
Yeah, crazy how that works.
Yeah. Okay. So I asked this exact question about low step kick. Other than the use cases that you specifically called out, are you pretty much ignoring anger charge?
Yeah, it's not a very good boost. Like,
Okay, so
just like with the attack, you will find surprising scenarios where it makes sense to use it, but I will allow the viewer to discover those themselves.
okay, and harkening back, remain flexible, right? Remain unpredictable. There is an excellent chance if you keep your eyes open, you will find a place to use this. But I shouldn't be too surprised if I don't. Um,
Yep.
okay, so low step kick, a card that has very niche and specific applications, attached to a boost that has very niche and specific applications. It sounds like a lot of times this is finally a card I found that I can spend as force.
Yep.
Sick. All right. On a economy tight character, that actually is really good news.
Yep.
Okay. Um by default then, this is force. Uh and then playing the attack versus boost game with it, it's like, am I in exceed mode? Do I have the EX? Do I have this EX? Are probably going to be the what is the status of my opponent's focuses and sweeps? Um, are going to be like the deciding factors for how I use this card.
More or less, yeah.
Okay, when I'm not spending it as force, I mean. Okay, what about regular old non anger charged Tiger Uppercut?
Oh, also, we didn't talk about the crit effect on it. The crit hit push 2 is kind of a meme. Not because it's not helpful. It actually is pretty nice. Sagat likes range 3 more than range 1 most of the time.
Okay,
But like, and I will mention this again when we talk about the actual regular shape. Range 1 is like fine. We have Tiger Knee. We have reasonably good slows because we get free stats. So like we don't need to fight for range 3 oftentimes. We can get it when we want it. It's so this is like an incidental benefit that is nice, and it's not something you are going to spend gauge on most of the time. Spoilers.
okay. So if I want the Tiger Knee or the Tiger Uppercut crit for some reason, I'm probably not going to play Anger Charge just to get it. But setting range 3 with Tiger Uppercut is cool. I like range 3.
It can be nice, yeah. It does
Not
mean that it trades with Spike, which is awkward.
right. Not Anger Charge version.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
which would stun it clean. I think I've actually seen that interaction in a God. I think a game between like D and Jungi years and years ago on his channel where he called out a spike with a he called out a Tiger Uppercut with a spike. Um, with exactly that interaction. So the push 2 is cool. It's not one gauge cool. It
Yeah,
is
most of the time.
it's probably also not anger charge cool, but if I'm also getting speed and power and guard on top of it, maybe I can find a use for it. But by default, when I'm playing Tiger Uppercut, I'm probably not critting with it.
Yeah, I would say that most of the time it is better to regret that you did not crit than to invest the gauge into Tiger Uppercut. And the reason why that is because of the way that you use this card, which is as a block. You are a
Mm,
character that has a little bit of range 1 awkward, oh, well, not range 1 specifically, melee range awkwardness this card helps a lot with shoring up those issues, even though it is itself a fairly awkward card.
Okay. So, and block is the archetypal. Um, you can play this most of the time to not lose a strike. Um, if you're paying for the privilege of not losing a strike, that's not that's not great, right? Like we want to aim higher than that. So if this is block, I'm noticing it's block that hits. Obviously, there's going to be some differences, but if the function of the card is to not lose a strike, paying for the privilege is not going to make that better most of the time.
Yeah, you would need a pretty solid read that the opponent is going to play something that both loses to Tiger Uppercut, allows you to hit, and also you have follow up that you want to set range 3. It's a very specific set of situations that need to occur that also come down to you being confident in your reads for this crit to actually be super appealing in my opinion.
Okay, sure. And in terms of like the normal interactions that this plays well with, um, the after lose all armor at speed 4 is kind of awkward because it's a 1 to 2 card, meaning ignoring cross. They're not going to cross out on me because I have LTS. Grasp deals 0, but this doesn't hit back. Um,
Yep.
so in that sense, it is very much like a block because all I'm getting out of it, it doesn't even go to my gauge. All I'm getting out of it is a way to not get hit for 3 damage. And then the slower stuff is uh it's fine to hit, but then it'll trade down because it loses the armor. So it's never going to be like an all-star melee card, but it's always going to be like a pretty good melee card. Is that a way to think about it?
Yep.
Okay, sure.
And in specific matchups, like for example against Milia, she has this 5 speed ignore guard card. Oh, but it only hits for 3. Well, Tiger Uppercut suddenly is an extremely important relevant tool.
Okay, and there's a lot of Noelle as a character is like defined by uh winning combat quote unquote for free for approximately 3 damage. Um
Yep. Noelle
y-
has her own example of
yeah.
the 3 power 5 speed ignore guard.
Yeah.
Humorously, Noelle actually has a card which, unlike Swing Braid, actually beats Tiger Uppercut by not getting hit back,
Right.
despite it, being a 0-0 trade.
Right.
But, at least you played block.
Right. Sure. Okay. And if that's all we're planning to use this card for, that's fine. Um in order to justify the crit, I would be probably doing it on defense so I can act at range 3 right away. Um and like I don't know what I could possibly be doing at range 3. Um I
Yeah, it could
could
be
have a
anything.
I could have a follow-up. There's a lot of appealing options for Sagat to do at range 3, but to your point earlier, I need to have those things and have a read that my opponent is leaving themselves to be vulnerable to be pushed while also letting them be hit by Tiger Uppercut. That's actually not a lot of things that do that.
Yep.
Okay. Um the one
So once again, my advice is regret the times that you don't crit it, and basically never crit it, which
Okay.
is, not something I'm usually going to advise to never do something, but it's probably better to spend the gauge on something else, even when it was good to crit it.
Okay. Yep, makes sense. Shall we talk about terrifying at the same time or just keep going down the kit?
Sure. I I think it actually is relevant for the calculations on Tiger Uppercut. So obviously, as we've been talking about, Tiger Uppercut is a card that doesn't really lose most of the time because, like, if you hit, you basically got the assault sweep trade with the opponent, and if you didn't hit, you like had 3 armor,
Yeah.
and you're kind of just shrugging it off. So like, this is a card that you can play to just like chill in melee, and it's not very non-committal, which stands in stark contrast to, for example, low step kick,
Right.
which is very committal in exchange for actually like straight up beating things.
Probably just winning, sure.
Terrifying is kind of the opposite of that. This is a fairly committal because it's expensive. Uh,
Mhm.
really really nasty pressure tool.
Yeah, they must discard 2 cards at random is already really scary. Doing that at now strike speed is that's ugh. That's a really really messed up attack, or a really really messed up boost rather. Um, so the commitment that you're talking about, I'm paying a resource, I'm getting rid of a card that at the oh actually okay at the range I could play terrifying is when Tiger Uppercut is a kind of at its best. It seems like, or close to at its best. Um, I'm not like I can't play the game where oh I'm out of range of the attack. I'll use the boost that's tailor made for this
Yep.
situation. These kind of have overlap.
Yep.
So how am I navigating that? Um, if the opponent strikes into me, I'll Tiger Uppercut. If they uh, pass the turn back to me and we're still at range one, I'll play Terrifying. Is that kind of the way I'm thinking about it?
Um, it depends on so many factors that it's hard to give a real solid answer. If you're doing the like advantage chain line thing that I've pointed to a couple times as being a thing that Sagat can do, if you want to make it so the opponent is really sad, then doing like face up assault into terrifying tyranny is very very rude. It's also very expensive
Right.
and requires you to not get disrupted on this, which means not running into a sweep or not getting this or this swept out of your hand. So like you know setup requirements probably wants you to have basically a full hand. This is part of what I mean by this being a committal pressure tool. It's
Right.
very nasty, but it is a lot to ask for because you are spending both this very important, in my opinion, defensive tool that allows Sagat to just sometimes nope out of strikes,
Right.
and in addition to that, an additional card on a character that does not have a lot of just like free floating force.
Right. And even another card on top of that because you're striking, which is also expensive.
Yep.
Um, this reminds me a lot of the interaction or the interplay between focus and reading. You have
Yeah. It's
the
very similar.
absolute all-star defensive card and something really scary that has a chance of whiffing, right? You could it's never good to discard two cards at random, but if you pull two ultras from the discard, you're winning very hard. If you pull a spike and a dive and you're at range one and they're like, well, I wasn't planning on playing those cards anyway. It's still good. You still get hand information when you whiff a reading, but you are committing and taking a risk. And among the commitments you're making is getting rid of a very stable defensive card that you would love to just play on defense.
Yeah. So in that regard, because terrifying has a force cost on it, you can actually compare it closer to the boost on focus in season 7 scramble,
Okay.
which is a lot of similar dynamics to reading, except it costs a gauge in addition to forcing you to strike.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So every single lesson uh I've had at this point it's 108 this is number 119 118 um everybody says man focus and reading focus and scramble you could fill a book with figuring out how to do that it is beyond the scope of a single character lesson this will be a hard decision in every situation often I know that you have preferences towards focus for example. Do you also have preferences for Tiger Uppercut over Terrifying, or do you find yourself using both?
I use I use terrifying more than I use reading or scramble.
Actually,
I
I
don't
assume
I
because Tiger Uppercut is a little bit worse than Focus.
You're damn right it's worse than focus.
Yeah,
Um it is often a matchup consideration for me. Does my opponent have a weak econ, or do they have like a lot of cards that lose to Tiger Uppercut for some reason?
sure.
Like how important is the attack shape in the matchup? How crippling is the forcing them to get double swept in the
Okay,
matchups? Stuff like that is what
sure.
I'm often thinking about when I'm deciding how I'm going to use this card.
Milia probably uh, really hates Tiger Uppercut. Could probably stand to get hit by a Terrifying and not care very much.
Her
Tager,
economy actually is pretty bad, but yeah. Um,
I mean,
Now
part of
Taker's a
part,
great example where like yeah, the character's
yeah,
going to wild swing anyways, so it doesn't actually
right,
help you.
right. Um, part of the reason that her economy can be kind of shaky though is because of cards like Tiger Uppercut that would prevent a stun. Um, So
Yeah.
you're sort of kind of denying her econ by doing it that way too.
Yep.
My point is that
It's a funny shape of decisions. Yeah.
yeah, my point in bringing that up at all is like the reinforcing your idea about it being a matchup consideration. You will use terrifying when you can picture yourself playing as the character you're fighting against and saying like, "Man, I would really hate to get lose two cards as this character."
Yep.
Makes sense. Okay.
Which I think you're gonna find that a lot of Sagat's game plan is put yourself into the opponent's mind and think about their character and go, man, I would really fucking hate to deal with this.
Right. Right. Okay. So conveniently, uh, I have a YouTube channel where you can find out what characters would really hate to deal with. Please go ahead. It's almost Shoto like in a way. I guess he's got a projectile and advancing option and a kind of a Shoryuken. Um, I I'm going to be tailoring my game plan to what my opponent hates the most, rather than trying to force through my preferred game plan.
Yep.
Make sense? Um, we already talked Tiger Shot a little bit, but we're back to it now. Anything more to say about this card?
Well, this card's goaded. And I didn't actually talk much about the hit effects on them, and I think they're kind of interesting. So obviously, you can play this face up, and you can play it non-crit to generate 2 gauge, assuming you have
Yep.
a discard pile, which means you can't actually generate 2 gauge at the start of the game unless you play Reading or Niche Meme Tech Alert. If you play Terrifying, it forces you to
Terrifying.
strike no matter the
Yep.
range.
Oh, because the strike is a separate sentence. It's not. That's not a, if the opponent is at range one. You could strike at any time if you wanted to pay two cards to do it.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyways, back to reasonable plays. Yeah, if you have like EX Tiger Shot or Reading plus Tiger Shot, um, you can do those to stock a card in the discard pile from at the start of the game, so that this
Right.
hit effect actually successfully generates 2 gauge. I think that spending EX Tiger Shot for that is a little expensive, so I wouldn't recommend it. I think spending a Reading is more gamble core than I like to do. So I
Okay.
will probably instead do a different thing that will stock a card into the discard pile, like I don't know, playing the game normally.
Right. Just so I feel like because I've done this right. I've messed around with Sagat a little bit. I feel like we start the game at range four. This is a perfect opportunity to play Tiger Shot. Um, End of thought. Right. Like the the opportunity to do it is there, so I will do it. But if I think about it for a little bit, I can probably like range four is not the most uncommon range in the history of Exceed. I can probably find it again later. Um, if I don't have a discard pile, is there any particular point to playing Tiger Shot? Like, how much is the second gauge? Uh, like, how much of that value is tied up in that gauge?
I think it's pretty important. Personally, you might come to different conclusions with your own Sagat playstyle.
Okay, makes sense. Um, there is also, so God, yeah, this hit effect. So add the top card of your discard pile to your gauge, then draw a card. Um,
Yeah,
that's
septic.
that's crazy, Econ. Push one. Um, is how am I evaluating that? It would set range five or set range four if I did it at three. Um, is it just like, okay, now my opponent has to walk a little bit farther to hit me again? Is it to set up specific cards? How am I evaluating this?
Well, if you set range 5 with it, or if you somehow hit it at range 5 and set range 6 with it, those are ranges where less things successfully answer low tiger shot. So it's actually like a meaningful distinction there because you have low tiger shot in the kit.
Okay. So
Aside
I
from that, it's mostly just about like force economy manipulation stuff, which like this is a force economy manipulation powerhouse.
yeah, okay. So
That is part of how you should be looking at this card.
this is the card uh that makes a grappler really sad because now they have a little bit farther to walk. The it's the zoner card. It's the one that makes it so that I have a little bit more of an edge over my opponent. But when you talk about force manipulation, I'm also drawing a card. Um, I can also crit it to draw a card, and then the opponent must discard a card.
Yep.
So, okay, wow. All right. So it's the exact same. It's what you were talking about before about like I'm converting a resource. Um, I can spend a gauge to draw a card and make the opponent discard a card, and then get a gauge back, uh, but not go up on gauge, but yes, go up on cards.
Yep.
Or I can not do any of that, go gauge positive and go card neutral.
Yep.
All right, that's a lot of for yeah, that is a fascinating card. By
It's
default,
one of my favorite card designs, probably in all of Exceed.
yeah, that's actually really sick. By default, are you not critting this because the gauge is too important?
That is often what I do. I think that there is a lot of good reasons to play it the attack crit because this attack often hits. Which
Right.
you need to be reasonably confident that you're going to hit if you're going to crit Sagat's attacks.
Sure.
So but like that is just mostly not a major consideration with Tiger Shot. You're probably going to hit with this attack
Right.
if you're playing it.
Right.
But yeah,
Okay.
like I personally think that getting more gauge is more important, but being able to draw two cards and also force the opponent to discard while also setting them, back positioning wise, lots of really strong traits tied up in that crit, and like I think there are very good reasons to do it.
Okay.
And it's often just going to come down rather to the player preference on how they want to use Tiger Shot with regard to economy.
Okay. That makes sense. Um, this card also, so like this whole time we've been talking about uh Tiger Shot as being like it is. I mean, we actually didn't mention this. Uh, there are no normals that beat this card at range 3 when you initiate. Right, it just wins against everything. Um,
Yep.
even more so at range 4. Um, presumably, if
Uh,
normals hit out to range 5, even more so at range 5. It does also hit at range 2. Um, is that it doesn't seem good at range 2. Um,
all right. Here's what it being 2 to 5 does, and this is like a general property of fireballs rather than a specific to Tiger Shot consideration. Being 2 to 5 means that when you initiate with it at range 4, even face down, obviously if you do it face up, you just beat tie assault. But the opponent at range 4 cannot assault to duck under your fireball's minimum range.
right.
So
Okay.
unlike Udoken, you can play this face down, and the opponent has to respect that it is a mix-up option that beats assault.
Sure. Okay. All right. And that we found a compelling use case to play a card face down as Sagat, at least some of the time. Um, you just mentioned also that the push effect makes it so that LTS, less things beat it. Same reason, right? The range band. If I push them out to 6, now they can't assault in anymore. They would get to 4. They can't even dive in anymore. They would get to 3, still get clocked.
Yep.
Um, if they're closer, they can do one but not the other, for example. Okay, so this helps with the defensive options that my opponent can leverage against it. In Tiger Shot's case, most of them aren't going to work anyway because I'm going to be initiating with this, and it's faster than them anyway. Um,
Ideally, yes.
right. Is there a reason to be playing this on defense ever, or are you? If you did, I assume you wouldn't crit it. Like you could use it to call out a sweep at 3 or something like that, or a
Yeah.
spike at
Um,
3.
this is basically like a super deluxe version of Dive in terms of how it interacts with the range 3 mix-up, which is it beats Spike, it loses to Assault, and it, beats Slows.
Right.
It
Okay.
beats Focus less in a less insane way than it beats Sweep. But luckily, playing Focus on offense to bait the opponent to play specifically Assault into you is pretty niche as far as mix-ups go.
Sure. Okay. So it is a credible range 3 defensive option, just not as much of a world breaker as it is on offense.
Yep.
Okay. Makes sense. How about reach?
Reach is a boost that I have played in the past. Um, it does things. It does nice things. I think you mostly will play Tiger Shot. Um, It is worth noting, and I didn't talk about the Ultra Boosts yet. We will talk about them later.
Sure.
We have Massive in the kit on Tiger Destruction.
Right. If I need range, I got range.
Yes, and also that means that over the course of 2 turns, if the opponent passes back to you with Massive, you can effectively get +0 to 2 range and +2 armor and +2 guard, which means that your attack is probably effectively stun immune, probably will have, a decent amount of armor for trade value, and then also is probably just going to hit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, okay, so it has 2 range, 2 armor, 2 guard. Probably in that case, 1 speed. This isn't an action. I can reach and get speed.
That
Um,
is correct.
Possibly power as well. Um, at that point, I've built a much better EX attack. Basically, it's just a face up one.
Yeah, it's pretty mighty.
Okay. Is that the kind of use case? Is that like the threshold of value that I'm looking for in order to play Reach in the first place? Because Tiger Shot is so important. Like I wouldn't accept less than that.
There's also there's a lot of little scenarios where Reach can do positive things for you. It's basically just that you are spending Tiger Shot to do it that makes it really unappealing.
Right. And I mean, if Terrifying is expensive, so is Reach, right? They are 1/4 special boosts that cause a strike. This probably even more so because I would care more about losing Tiger Shot than Tiger Uppercut.
Yeah, the opportunity cost is even higher, and the potential reward is more
Medium.
marginal.
Right. Okay. All right. So assume that I won't be playing that most of the time because Tiger Shot does needs no introduction. It is the an all-star of a card.
It is
Um
nice to have, and just like everything else in Sagat's kit, I'm sure as you play the character, you will find situations where it makes sense to play it. And it might even be the correct decision.
yep, okay. Just weigh it carefully because I'm giving up an iconic card. It's like honestly, it's like giving up Hadoken on Ryu, right? Like, uh,
Yeah,
what is it? Defensive is the name of that boost. It's super good.
yeah.
That's a great
That looks
boost.
crazy ass boost.
Yeah, but like in Exceed, one of the things that designers ask is like, what is the card? What is the attack the character has that is so iconic that it wouldn't make sense if it was bad? On Sagat, that's like these two, right?
Yep.
Um, be careful spending it. In other words, if your mom who hasn't played a video game since like 1994 recognizes a card from a Street Fighter character, be careful spending that card. Basically,
True.
shall we move on to Tiger Knee?
All right, so you mentioned Hadoken. Here's like fucking Donkey Kick. This card is crazy as hell.
So it's
It's
one
effectively a sweep shape, and it
one that
has hit gain advantage on it.
and it's a close effect, so it's like a salt sweep.
Yeah,
Okay,
this
close
card is
to
a
gain
house.
advantage, 4 guard, 5 power. Okay. All of those are awesome stats. I can happily play this at range 3 and not care. I'm sorry, range 1 and not care. Um, kind of at range 3 and not care too, honestly. Um, is this just like the easiest to mash card of all time?
It is a fairly strong card.
Okay. I'm also looking at this critical after. If the opponent is stunned, push 3. Okay. Um, I do sort of know the that like this is a dedicated assault counter, right? They assault into me. I steal advantage back. I crit them, and not only did I steal advantage back, but I push them back farther out than they started.
That is theoretically a use case of Tyranny. Yeah,
Right, and that's like the most obvious reading. It's a range 3 card. It beats their range 3 card. It's like a hard counter to it. Um, if I'm at range 1, it does the exact same thing to uh, grasp, for example. They're not going to cross out. I have LTS. Um, is that is that why I'm playing the card to get the crit effect, or is it just like no, I'm playing the card to deal 5 and gain advantage?
You could mostly do this,
Yeah.
and you would play the card very similarly to how it gets played
Okay.
currently.
Okay.
That crit does things. Don't get me wrong, but this is another situation like with Tiger Uppercut. You will probably mostly regret the situations in which it was better to crit it than actually invest in critting it. This
Right.
one doubly so because not only do you need to be confident that you're going to hit the opponent, you need to be confident that you're going to hit the opponent and they are going to get stunned, and then also you have a follow up at range 4 that you want to play.
Right. And just like with the Tiger Uppercut crit, like what could he possibly want to do at range 4? He's got plenty of options. That's probably not going to be the hard part. But confirming a range or a speed 3 card, even with a good range band, even with good defenses on it, is not trivial. And stunning is even less so. This is not a breakpoint killer. It's not going to beat sweep, for example. Um,
It's kind of a breakpoint killer, but it's one of the more specific breakpoints, which is the like 4 guard at 3 speed is fairly common in Street Fighter.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm thinking about like I mean the donkey kick comparison is 4 and 4. It would crush it cleanly. You would need a little bit help for a card like that. But for there are plenty of cards in Exceed that have spike speed and defense profiles, but do things other than spike. This
Yep.
would do just fine against them, for example.
Yeah, for example, Tiger Knee has the spike speed
Right.
and defense profile and doesn't do the thing that Spike does.
In the Sagat mirror, uh, Tiger Knee crits all day. In other words,
Probably not because reasons, but you
right?
know,
Sure, yeah. For the meme, though, absolutely yes. Um,
maybe.
okay, so you what you mentioned is if you uh crossed out the crit text, you would mostly play it the exact same way. How are you playing it? Just when it will hit because it's just a value card?
Yeah. This
Okay.
this this is a card that has a shitload of stats on it. It carries stats very nicely. Did you know that we have access to +1 power via our Exceed mode?
Yep. Yep. Okay.
It's
So and
like
it's part it's
a
part of the
defensible.
it's part of the advantage chain line that you were talking about where like this is a good reason to exceed in the first place because hitting with this and then this hurts real bad.
Certainly does.
Okay.
And also like just from a more like play feels perspective, like even if 6 isn't necessarily a common breakpoint, 6 just feels nicer to hit with than 5.
Yeah.
That's an advantage to the Exceed mode. But yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's true.
this is just a card that has a lot of stats on it, which
Okay.
means you can play it and play a card that has a lot of stats. It is defensible to play it on defense because you know it is reused Tatsu in terms of how it interacts with a lot of cards on defense.
Right.
And like you play reused Tatsu at range 1, that's like a pretty reasonable thing to do.
I will absolutely play Ryu's Tatsu on defense at range 1. That sounds amazing. Um okay. Yeah, no that's actually a very solid comparison. All right. Um how about Spite? You've mentioned it a couple times. This is our battery boost. It goes along with Tiger Shot as the battery attack. It gets us Gauge. I love Gauge. Um,
Yep. So you may have already noticed that our special boosts don't really offer us stats, at least not like in ways that are convenient.
right,
We have, you know, plus range and now strike. And then if our attack is specifically Tiger Uppercut, it gets a bunch of stats.
right.
And then a disruption tool, a specific mobility tool. So like this is basically our only stat boost outside of normal stat boosts and our ultra boosts, which are expensive for obvious reasons and also, you know, obvious reasons.
Yep.
So it's a neutral tool.
Okay.
I
So,
I I play it reasonably often despite Tiger Knee being a really silly card because sometimes you just need +1 speed right now.
yep, sure. And I mean, it's in terms of what it does, it's like 2/3 of Swift Attack, right? The Chun Li and actually many characters have Swift Attack. Landrekia has Swift Attack. Um, Speed and Gauge are both just like good, easy to use things. Um, it will. there, like with a lot of the things you're saying, I think you said that I will find situations in which it is appealing to use, and it might even be the right decision. So use
Yep.
both sides of this card. They're both going to just do good things for me.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Um, we've talked a little bit already about LTS. It is uh, the slow fireball to end all slow fireballs. Anything
Yep.
more? I mean, we didn't even mention that it loops. This has an after effect like Hadoken. It you get to keep
Yeah.
doing it. Um, I kind of feel like because this is my go-to comparison, anytime we're talking about like uh, in another lesson, a thing that you want to be careful crossing out against. LTS is my go-to. I feel like everybody knows how this card works already, but now we finally get to talk about it.
Yeah. Pretty awesome card. What I actually am gonna do, since like a lot of the like purpose of this card, which is like hold it over the opponent so they can't cross out. If they ever leave, try to run away, they die, which means that they have to like interact with your melee tools, which are frightening in their own right.
Sure.
Um, it loops, which means the opponent actually just dies after like 2 turns because it is hitting for 6 or 7 in
Right.
these situations where they ran away and fucked up. So like a lot of what this card does is pretty obvious. Make sure that the second copy doesn't drop. The first copy you can spend like for quick backdash is how you would be spending it. If so, quick backdash is a really great boost. It sets you from range 1 to range 3 functionally. It like technically says something else, but that's what it does. Um, and that's pretty nice because range 3 is a range where we can do really awesome things.
Yep. Okay. And the second copy is reserved for the threat, right? Is to say you
Yep.
really shouldn't be crossing out against me, so you have to interact with my melee tools.
Yep. So now that we've successfully talked about low tiger shot for a reasonable length of time, let's talk
Yep.
a bit about fireballs.
Yeah.
Since you asked about the importance of tiger shot hitting at range 2, and I mentioned like within the context of the opening mix up, this is a card that you cannot beat by playing assault. This
Yes.
is a card you can beat by playing assault. This is a card you cannot beat by playing cross. This is a card you can beat by playing cross. The
Right.
importance of fireballs hitting at range 6, the Sudokens all do it along with Stun Edge, is that you cannot cross out of them from range 4. This is part of why Stun Edge is a good card, despite it, reading not like a good card necessarily, is that
Right.
is a fireball that you both cannot assault out of and cannot cross out of,
Right.
which means it is basically guaranteed to hit if you play it at range 4.
Specifically in opening positions, right? Like if I play
Yeah, yeah,
Stunnage turn 1, they're going to run into the corner first.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
This
So
is all from the range 4 default starting positions of Exceed
right.
is where these things matter.
Right. Okay. Um.
So the way that you beat Sun Edge is by specifically playing dive to beat it.
Yep.
And then Hadoken, Tiger Shot, these cards you just kind of have to hold because you cannot even dive them. These you beat by playing Assault. This one you just kind of have to take that L and decide if you want to cross out and lose the game
And
instantly or not.
maybe die. Right. And probably die actually, because cross would also be your way to run back in. Okay. Um. So these two together have range band coverage that makes it very hard to get away from them. Does that mean that like this is also just part of my opening mix up at range 4?
It is technically part of your opening mix-up. What you are actually going to do in the situations where you have low Tiger Shot and you want to play it is do something like play Swift Destruction at range 4,
Right.
which I
A
guess leads us into talking
yeah,
about the Ultra Boosts
a a
conveniently.
a boost of all time. Before we get there, I just mentioned opening mix up. That would involve playing this face down. Um,
Yep.
is is that real at all? Is there a reason to ever do that?
Similar to a lot of decisions you can make with Sagat. It is a thing that you will sometimes find reasonable and compelling arguments to do, and it might even be the correct decision.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Sorry, yeah, we were talking Swift Destruction, a an infamous a generational exceed boost going back all the way to season 1 actually. Like
Yeah.
he is the third of 3 characters, or are there more characters who have Swift Destruction?
Thinking, I think that it is third of three.
Yeah, it's Natali, Sagat, and some other dude.
Yeah, yeah, some other guy.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Euclid? All right. Yeah. So +4 power. We've mentioned this extensively on our Euclid lesson. Um, what does that do for Sagat? I guess I mean the answer to that question is what does +4 speed do? Is it ends neutral, right?
Yep. It it
Okay.
it says to the opponent that no matter how much you boost stats, you are not going to be faster than me. Asterisk, there are characters that can do that, but ignore them.
I'll probably
Um,
know if I'm fighting them.
yeah, you'll know if the opponent can somehow beat +4 speed in a turn,
Right.
or like more accurately, like if you boost this as a way to counter boost light, it's like effectively +2 speed in that scenario.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
you'll know if the opponent has, like, for example, preemptive strike to make you even on speed or something.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. But that's the kind like another ultra boost that is of comparable quality is the kind of thing that they would need to deal with this speed edge. Um,
Yep.
what am I? So on Equus, for example, he has an incredible ability to make basically everything he's throwing a compelling swift destruction payout because he hits so hard if he gets a chance to initiate, and he often will because people might be afraid to strike into him. Sagat has, I mean, these seem pretty amazing with
Yeah, those
extra
are those
speed
are
or
really neat.
power on top of them. This seems pretty amazing.
Yeah, did you know that +4 speed low tiger shot is speed 6?
Yeah, that seems pretty good. Yeah, even on defense, right? Uh, that is an extremely compelling use case of swift destruction all on its own. Um, in a situation like that, where I'm like, essentially, I'm positive that LTS is going to hit. Would I crit it then?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the crit comes from the fact that my opponent has enough ways to dodge it that um it could be a waste.
Yeah,
But
I think that this crit is worth doing basically anytime that you are certain that the attack is going to hit.
okay, because I mean plus 1 power could be +2 power, draw a card. That's all good as long as I can confirm it. I just have to not whiff.
Yeah, and actually, I pulled out all these fireballs. We can now talk about another important part of how fireballs interact with each other.
Right.
Stun Edge has 5 guard. This is pretty normal for a slow fireball to have as 5 guard.
Sure.
If you do not crit this attack, then it is not going to stun edge. It will be a trade.
Right.
And that also
Okay.
means that stun edge will recover distance. If you crit this attack, it now stuns stun edge. This property is also true against like Sonic Boom, for example.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Most slow fireballs have that uh good long range band 3 speed 5 guard 3 speed Sagat. He can do that. Um So I guess the way that I can think of this is like it's a slow fireball that can also be sort of a mid speed fireball. Because if I'm critting it, it can crush other slows.
Yep.
Okay.
And in that regard, it kind of turns into Kendoken, especially if you actually have speed backing it.
Right.
Which notably, if you're fighting Ken, don't get stranded at range 6. It's really nasty because Ken can beat low tiger shot by
Yes.
critting Odoken, and you don't actually have answers.
Right. Right. Other than if I've already got Swift Destruction down, then he's got to eat it.
Yep.
Okay. Um, with Swift Destruction, it's 6 speed. I could play that at range 3. The
You definitely could. Yeah.
in that case, the range band is not saying this will prevent my opponent from assaulting in from range 5 and dodging it. It's actually just like this is the threshold in which I can pay out my Swift Destruction. Any range would work for that. Any range, but from 3 to 8, I don't actually need to set it up positioning wise if I have this boost.
Yep. And
Okay.
in that regard, switch destruction is a more specific tool as far as what it allows Sagat to do if you're trying to use it as a pressure tool in the way that Equus sometimes does.
Right.
So what often happens with switch destruction is that instead of being a proactive pressure tool of respond to this or die, which sometimes you do because like sometimes you're like, okay, well, like if they don't, then they're just gonna eat low tiger shot and I probably win from there.
Right.
It is, oh, the opponent boosted light. I have this. I'm willing to commit the resources into this as basically a combination of tech and light in one action.
Okay, I understand the comparison. That makes sense. Okay. So this is a counter boosting tool. It's saying like stop it. like like
Yep.
stop fighting. The boost war is over. Um okay. So the resource cost is significant. It's on an ultra I'm it's on a line of play ultra. I might not be playing it every game, but it is something that I can do and it's really scary. This also is really scary. Do you find yourself boosting Swift Destruction more often than you play Tiger Cannon?
Don't underrate spending these cards as force, by the way. You sometimes
Sure.
need to do that as well. Anyways, probably yes, but only because this is a 4 gauge ultra and this is a 1 force ultra boost.
Right.
Both are expensive, but like they just aren't expensive in the same way.
Yeah, and I will there is like just definitionally there are more times in the game where I will have this in my hand and one force than this in my hand and 4 gauge. If I have 4 gauge, I have one force. Um
Yep.
so okay. I will be tempted to play Swift Destruction more often because it's so good and more freely available. But if I can hold out, listen, Tiger Cannon's pretty good.
It's very good ultra. Basically has 11 power.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Um yeah, and Swift Destruction otherwise kind of makes a case for itself automatically. It is an infamous boost. Um we talked a little bit about Massive already. Um what is my how am I evaluating that against the value of Tiger Destruction?
All right, so great news. You know how we talked about how like these have like utility in the same spots. These really have utility in the same spots as well.
Yeah,
This one actually does have utility in different spots because you mostly don't want speed at range one.
right.
Um, this is a boost that is kind of just good everywhere, unlike the attack, which is good at specifically ranges 3 and 4. You know that range that's impossible for us to set up.
Right, sure.
Anyways, yeah, this is basically the universal utility. No matter how you play this card, it's going to be really good card, including spending it as 2 force. Sometimes that needs to happen as well.
Okay.
Um, this is a really annoying boost for some characters to deal with. I have had a lot of issues dealing with this boost as May, for example. So once again, think about what the opponent doesn't like, and then do it. And if that is, oh, they would really hate if they had to deal with Stonewall, and then also my sweep is 1 to 4, sweep slash Tiger Knee or whatever, then do it.
Okay.
Uh, it's a very non-committal boost as well. Like it costs the opportunity cost of playing Tire Destruction, but that is literally all it costs is the opportunity cost of playing Tire Destruction.
Right. Right. And it gives me a lot of stability, a lot of safety. Tiger
Yep.
Destruction itself is not hard to set up. 2 gauge is very cheap. Um, I can race my opponent to their scary ultra payout and probably beat them and threaten it uh, very easily. Massive is even easier to play than that.
Yep.
So, like, similar dynamics, not in terms of play patterns, but in terms of like how I'm evaluating the card. This is costlier than this. This is costlier than this. It's just that this whole card is costlier than this whole card.
Yep.
Okay. So there's no wrong decisions on this one. There just might be a more right one depending on the game.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Makes perfect sense to me. Um, all right, so that's the kit. Uh, I got several questions as always, of course, because I'm too curious for my own good. The most pressing one that I have is this guy has very straightforward attacks, a very like flexible but powerful and fairly straightforward game plan. Why is he so hard? Because
Oh,
I've
because
heard
it's really easy to misplay as him.
what's that?
It's really easy to misplay as him.
Yeah, I've
And his recovery factor is so bad in the event that you do a misplay.
okay. So yeah, that's the part that I'm wondering about because I've experienced this myself. I've heard players much better than me talking about how difficult Sagat is, and like looking at his cards, it's not immediately clear why. It's just that if you spend wrong, like if you waste a Tiger Shot, you don't have anything else in your kit that does what Tiger Shot does, and also it was force that you could have spent. If you exceeded, you probably can't play Tiger Cannon. Like messing up is just too hard for him to recover from, so you're kind of always on a knife's edge. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, so you know the meme about like optimal 9?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've had basically the same theory with Sagat basically since he's released. I've obviously not been able to prove it, but that's one of those things. But yeah, like I think that this character, if you don't make mistakes with him, is like a terror.
yeah,
Just because he's able to do so much and he has, just such high card quality and stats. And the thing holding him back is that like making a misplay is so crippling with him.
right, right, okay. And in a game with hidden information and a second player, it is exceptionally difficult, maybe impossible, to never make a mistake in Exceed, right? Like
That's
I
coward
should
talk. You can definitely play 100% clean.
that's true every time. Um, and if you can't, you're a scrub, basically. So, in all seriousness, like if I should certainly at the start when I'm first learning Sagat, I should expect to be on the back foot often because I probably messed up my spending at some point. Um,
Yeah,
and the recovery process, there's like no easy way to do it. There's no cheat code I can do to get myself back in the game. Are there any cards that I can like equalize with and try to find some stability? Or is it just like, well, you made one mistake and that's probably game?
that is like genuinely why these are appealing
Okay.
is you don't have to commit anything to them and they let you breathe.
Okay. So anything that lets me so in that case, backstep lets me breathe. Um Run
Yep.
away, threaten low tiger shot, make them come to me, rebuild my econ for like a turn, catch my breath.
Even arguably something like defend, which is, less good than massive, but yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, it is not an ultra boost on Tiger Destruction. Okay, so the difficulty, like again, kind of assuming a non-compliant opponent, like the fantasy of Sagat is I'm a bully and I can just do whatever I want all the time. I never make a mistake and I just win the game off of my card quality. In practice, at some point I'm going to say, "Oh man, I really shouldn't have spent that." I need to have the presence of mind to recognize that and the presence of mind of like when to disengage and rebuild. Um I can do it, but then my opponent is going to pounce and I should expect them to.
Yep. In
Okay.
in practice, Sagat feels less like a bully and more like a surgeon.
Yeah, yeah, okay. He's going to get his pay docked very badly if he messes up. He's operating on a very important person. Um, okay, so the game plan broadly, then it's kind of Shoto-ish. It's kind of uh, do what I can with my kit to mold myself into what my opponent can't deal with. Am I like this? These are zoner cards. I clearly can zone. You mentioned I have very
Not
poor
the best.
mobility. I can't really set up zoning.
Yep.
Like, what does that mean for me, like archetypally? Am I a brawler that you can't cross out of? Am I a zoner? What am I?
You're probably more of a zoner than you are a brawler that you can't cross out of, but you are definitely also a brawler that you can't cross out of. You have pretty mighty melee tools and
Right,
also low step kick
right,
as far as playing like that goes, and then you
and
also just have free
normals with
access to
this
stats.
are pretty great. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Speaking of those normals,
Yeah.
any advice on how I'm using these?
Um, Both sides of cross are very important because Sagat tends to end up stuck in the corner, which means that run is important. But also, this sure is a card that wins the strike probably, sets up a range that you're better at the opponent at probably,
Yep.
and also gets a gauge probably.
Yep. All wow.
So
Yeah. All of those things. That honestly, what that sounds like is Tiger Shot.
kinda. But yeah. So like this is a very very good attack for Sagat, but also do not underrate this boost. This boost is also pretty important for you know how immobile this character can be otherwise.
Right.
Similarly, Assault is an attack that, especially in Exceed mode, has a lot of really appealing properties. Think to how you feel about the Assault into Focus and Assault into Sweeps trades, and then think about how much better you feel about those when the opponent can't cross out, and then additionally the slow 8 a 5 power attack instead of a 4 power attack. And
Right.
you can see kind of why that's an appealing card for Sagat to play, even though it's not intuitively obvious why that would be the case.
Sure. Sure. And that also, like what you've described, half of that is true of Tiger Knee as well. That's why Tiger Knee is an appealing card.
Yep.
Okay.
And similarly, Tiger Knee chains off of assaults, and
Right.
like the opponent can't cross out of assault, so they just have to eat the advantage chain if you're going for it, probably.
Right. Sure.
Um, Backstep similarly buys you time, buys you distance. Distance you're probably better than the opponent at. It
Right.
does a lot of really nice things. I know I'm not giving a lot of good solutions in this video, but Sagat is a character who is very fun to play, in part because of how he interacts with all of Exceed's tools in such interesting ways, which means that a
Yeah.
lot of decisions are not going to be easy.
Yeah. And also, I mean, this is the exact kind of this is a blue lesson, right? And you don't play very many characters who have extremely obvious answers because that's boring. You
Yeah, yeah, we did the Reese lesson 2 times ago. You
yeah,
go to that one if you want to learn about how you should play all your attacks and not play any of your boosts.
yeah, basically. You don't have a lot of those. Okay, so these two, my movement tools are obviously going to be important. Both the attacks are also very strong to represent. I've noticed we skipped over grasp.
It's one of the attacks of all time. Like it does things that are nice. Again, we're like better at range 3 than we are at range 1, which means this is actually a pretty nice defensive tool because if the opponent plays a thing that loses to grasp, which is like in this instance probably actually sweep, but like the grasp sweep trade is kind of okay for Sagat because as long as they don't literally sweep out the thing that hits them for 7 from
Right.
your hand, then they, the trade will be equalized over the course of 2 strikes.
Sure. Sure. Okay. And fierce, we've actually mentioned a couple times. I have some pretty decent ways to confirm it. Um, uh, Especially on my turn, obviously, but like just this alone is often above
Yeah.
curve. This can be above curve. This is incredibly consistent. If I
And
have it,
if you don't want to commit the fierce up front, which I think is pretty reasonable because grasp is a nice card for us to have available as a defensive threat, and also sometimes you just need to represent speed 8. Um, this is also pretty reasonable to boost as like the second thing that you boost, which is actually the default way to use a power boost, in my opinion.
okay.
And we have pretty good ways to make it a pretty reasonable second thing to
Second
boost.
boost, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So
So
you confirm your. These are all things that you can use to confirm your attacks. Notably, so
yeah,
you say that I'm hitting, and then you say I'm hitting harder in that order, preferably.
and of course the risk there is that if the opponent between you saying I'm hitting and then you saying I'm hitting harder, if they draw the tech, they can discard one of these boosts,
Right.
which like is the awkward thing about engaging in that kind of greedy boost play pattern.
Sure.
But like depending on exactly what you have boosted and what the opponent has, also like yeah, the opponent is going to hold tech for this. You can like play reading, which we'll get to later, to like scout out their techs and get rid of
Right.
them, and then
Right.
like everything becomes way harder for the opponent. So like I don't know, maybe do that. But yeah, so like fierce, nice boost, especially because we have good boosts, good if specific boosts for giving us consistency, and then grasp, uh attack that is nice because it is not a thing that we can represent otherwise, and it is a thing that we like winning with on defense because we actually do like setting up, range 3. We just don't want to spend a gauge to do that.
Sure. Yeah, and why not use my opponent's turn quite consistently to do it? If I'm
Yep.
representing Tiger Knee, they're probably not going to grasp me. Uh, I can do it on their turn.
Dive is obviously at range 3. You have like the Seth dynamic where like you play this. Yeah, the opponent knows you're playing dive, but they also just lose to it because it's 5 speed.
Right.
It might even be 6 speed or a million speed.
Yeah, every speed.
So like obviously it's good in those use cases. It also, similar to what I was saying about run, When you are stuck in the corner and the opponent is at range 1, it is a tool that allows you to filter out slows while also getting to range 3 out of the corner.
Right. Right. Okay. So
So, like, don't underestimate like defending with dive
d-
into
def-
the opponent. It might
defensive
actually do something very good.
defensive mutually whiffing with dive. Okay.
Tech is
Makes
tech.
sense. Yep.
Obviously, we have like a pseudo tech in the form of swift destruction, but
Right.
sometimes you want actual for real tech.
Right. It is a tool. I will probably use it because I'm
I think the
Sagat.
situations in which, yeah, I think the situations in which you will want to tech a boost are going to be reasonably obvious. So,
Yep. Find my opponent's scariest thing, tech that if I can't deal with it otherwise. It seems like I often can deal with it otherwise. I have Swift Destruction, I have consistency tools that are pretty good to say, like, I'm being competitive in a boost war. My own stats are
yep,
quite good. Maybe I don't need tech, but if I do, I'll probably know.
yep.
Okay.
Spike is obviously like you can confirm it with swift destruction, and it's really nice and rude. And notably, the opponent can't just go to range 1 to defuse the swift destruction because you can
Sure.
still just spike their ass.
Right.
So like it's a pretty credible threat. And in that regard, it's not something you necessarily want to just throw away, but also like Sagat's a pretty high damage character. You don't necessarily need spike. You have, the I am big quality of just hitting the opponent really hard.
Right.
So you don't necessarily need to ignore their armor in the process. But like it's a thing that does things, and those things can be nice, and it's not even that difficult for us to play if we want it. Defend, I already mentioned as being, budget massive.
Yep. Just
It allows you to
a,
buy time and consistency,
a
which is
breather
nice
tool.
because like it effectively makes this attack stun immune.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, even against characters who hit very hard, uh, 8 effective guard is pretty tough to break.
Yep.
Okay.
And also like this is very safe to play if you're and it filters most things.
Sure. Yep.
So like defend does things. One of the things it does is just make it so that we have an opportunity to get through our deck a little bit. Because again, Sagapi can be a little slow paced, and sometimes you will just need to prep.
Yep. Makes sense.
Sweep is baller, and in exceed mode we can make it hit for 7, which is sick.
Yeah, there's not a lot of things that
I
that answer that.
Yep, I am personally fond of playing it face up as a forcing play, forcing out dives. If you are less suicidal than me, you can like reading those dives instead,
Yep.
or play it when it's 4 speed instead of 3 speed. But also like, it's fine. I'll just eat the dive.
Sure. But like uh massive sweep, uh face up, exceed mode, swift destruction sweep, like I could probably make something work with
Yeah, you can make this card hit basically guaranteed if you want to do that, and it's not even that difficult to do. You will
right.
find plenty of opportunities where sweep is a good card to play, even better than normal, in fact, which is pretty nice.
Yep.
Um, Light is obviously a good boost, even within the context of our kit where we have functionally light as our ability and super duper deluxe light as one of our boosts, and then also like mini light
Flight.
as one of our other
Yeah.
boosts.
Flashlight.
Light still does useful things, but Sweep also does useful things. You will probably use both reasonably often.
Yep.
Um,
Pretty rare that I
Similar to
spend
Tiger,
sweep as force.
yeah, similar to Tiger Uppercut, Focus is a valued offensive option at a range where we are not hopeless, but we definitely appreciate having the defensive option of Focus available to us,
Right.
especially because it's a lot less flawed than Tiger Uppercut for obvious
Right.
reasons.
You laughed when I compared the two earlier in the lesson. Like focus is amazing. Obviously focus is amazing. I'm not going to blow anybody's minds by saying that. And then you mentioned reading as a way to filter dives that they're probably going to be holding for swift destruction.
Yep, you can use it to and call like sweep or dive, and both of those are like reasonable things that they might have in their hand
Right.
in situations as a way to try to diffuse out this.
Yep. You,
So yeah, you
you,
can use it as a way to basically parry these attacks and then also just like beat them.
yep. You also mentioned reading into Tiger Shot as a possible turn one play just to get to gauge quickly. Not something
Yep,
you like to do personally, but it's an option. Um,
yep.
I feel like if I ever read across successfully, I probably win the game off of that alone.
Oftentimes, yes.
Okay, so expect my opponent to not be letting me do that.
Yep.
Okay. Um, and then block, I assume, as always, is block.
Yep, it's one of the cards of all time. It allows you to not lose the strike in situations where the opponent is not threatening ignore armor.
Yep, makes sense. Block.txt. Um, okay, so and parry is parry, which often is also parry.txt. It does the
Yep.
things it does on most characters. Um, with all of these cards evaluated now, my this one I feel fairly safe to spend as force. What else is like acceptable to me? It sounds like anything could be force because I don't have the option of being too choosy with my cards. But are there any other things that make a lot of sense to earmark as something for econ?
Tragically, no.
Awesome.
Maybe Spike would be your next choice, and then like block.
Okay. And that doesn't mean never spend anything as force. I'll be
Yeah,
preparing.
you are going to spend a lot of cards as force playing Sagat.
Yeah, I'll be preparing occasionally, but that's like a luxury if my opponent will let me do it. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, sorry, you're gonna have to change cards a lot. You're gonna have to move a lot.
Yeah, and in that regard, despite these being very strong attacks, these boosts make bank for Sagat even better than they do on many other characters.
Right.
The
Just
boosts run and backstep.
anything I can use for efficiency, I'm gonna use. Similarly, like don't exceed if you don't get value out of this kicker. It's because your force is that that's that's some force you didn't have to spend from hand by taking the
Yep.
move action when you exceed. Okay. Okay. So the econ part is going to be the hard part. There's really no easy answers to that. I will spend things that are uncomfortable to spend in every game, no matter what. Um,
More or less, yeah.
okay, makes sense. Um, any other notes you wanted to make about Sagat in general? I mean, at this point, I've got all my questions answered. I'm ready to go take on the world. But anything else that you wanted to mention before we talk counterplay?
Um, Sagat's really fun. I think that he's one of the characters that plays Exceed's engine in some of the most interesting ways available. So like if you like playing Exceed, I think Sagat is a character that you will probably like playing to a degree.
I think that he is among the characters that has the most like universally asterisk, right? Among the people I talk to who are at this point many good Exceed players because of this show, Sagat is like near universally loved. Maybe not as an opponent because he sounds like a real son of a bitch, but and blues in particular, I understand is a real nightmare to fight against. But
I'm washed.
as a okay, sure, as a uh, as a design, kind of everybody, if not love Sagat, they like respect Sagat, which seems very appropriate for who he is as a character. I really like him. I know that like like essentially what I'm saying is like all my homies love Sagat. Like I'm thinking about like he's one of Avusonian's favorite characters. Poulter likes him. D likes him. Moriarty likes him. Like I can't think of
Yeah.
very many things in the world that those people and Blue all enjoy. Sometimes even exceed. I don't think that all of those people enjoy. Sagat is like the grand unifier. So yeah, please do go check him out. He's awesome. There's a
Also,
reason
did you
that
know that he has a pet tiger whose name is like Giant Victory Cat or something like that?
I didn't know that, and that rules so hard. Um, I don't think I needed another excuse to want to go play him, but you've provided me one. Um, there is a reason to kind of put a capstone on this idea. There is a reason that all those years ago, all those decades ago, when Blue taught me Sagat, I was like, you know what? Maybe Exceed is cool. Because the characters I got out of that lesson were Bang and Sagat, who were both awesome. So yeah,
They're so
definitely go check him
cute.
out. Um, all right, so go play Sagat. He's super cool. Anything else you wanted to mention?
Um, not really.
Okay,
Like we'll talk about characters after counterplay.
definitely, yeah. And I know we have uh, a whole other Sagat up here to talk about. But yeah, how do you stop this guy? What is the Sagat counterplay?
All right, so I've mentioned a bunch of times that he's like not amazing at range one. He's not amazing at range one. He's also not very good at range two.
Okay,
Um, which is funny to say because range two is the place where you can play cross. But yeah, his range two is like not actually very good.
Okay.
So if you can represent a thing that beats cross, so that you can't just safely play cross, then you can like actually like do pretty good pressure into him at range two.
Okay.
Because Sagat is a character that has a bunch of precise tools, if you like keep track of his options as he's dropping things, you can play against what he has available more effectively, and it will probably be harder for him to do that against you, unless you're making massive critical resource management errors.
Okay. All right. He has basically no redundancy in his kit. Um, you can exploit the holes in his defenses probably more easily than he can exploit the holes in yours.
Similarly, there's like a bit of risk management involved in like things. So like, let's say you initiate with sweep, at a range where sweep hits.
Right.
Like his most reasonable defensive options in terms of like things that are consistent are going to be these. He has to specifically play this one to actually call out the sweep. So like playing something like sweep is reasonable because your loss case is precise and minimal. Obviously, that doesn't mean you should lose to low step kick every time, but also like take the throw, lol.
Right. Sure. Yeah. No. What am I going to do now that I've taken 2 damage? The game's over. I can't do it. Low step kick has defeated me. Um, you can probably
Which
come
like
back.
don't throw all your damage away into taking the throw, but like you can afford to take some throws.
Sure. Yeah. It's not that punishing compared to what I could be hitting you with if you didn't throw that sweep.
And like if you're so concerned about low step kick, you can also like just play focus. And if they beat you with EX low step kick, then you really don't have to take the throw anymore.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, he's run out of the throw.
Yep.
Okay.
And Sagat is a character that needs his turn an inordinate amount. So if you can advantage chain him, especially with things that are able to beat his, common defensive options, which is normals plus tiger uppercut plus tiger knee,
Yep.
you're kind of chilling.
Okay. And like
And if
these
you
are
can't do that,
these are state.
outvaluing him on your turns is like pretty reasonable as well as far as game plans go.
Okay, yeah. If you can't beat his defensive options, odds are you're the kind of character who can make a lot of use out of their turn. Um, and these defensive options are not like unstoppable. They're good. They're
Yeah,
consistent.
you can bait him out.
Yeah, you can bait them out. You
This
might be
is
able to
still like
outstat them. This is not so
yeah, this loses to
guardy that
five power or ignore guard. This loses to slows. This loses
yeah,
to things that are faster than it.
yeah,
The normals lose to normal things.
right. Okay. Makes sense. Anything else you want to mention on the counterplay side?
Um, don't hold on to dive long enough that he actually can just like reading you.
Yep, makes sense. I guess actually one thing, given what you're talking about with your idea of what Sagat does, is envisioning what his opponent can't deal with. It sounds like know pretty well what your character can't deal with, because that's what Sagat is going to be trying to do to you. And if predictability is the enemy, then you've already gotten into his head by figuring that out.
Yep.
Okay. Makes sense. That's actually pretty broadly applicable to all of Exceed, but Sagat in particular, it seems like really preys on that. Um, all right, so if that's counterplay, the traditional blue and gear face last question is if I really like Sagat, what other characters might I be interested in?
If you like playing big bullies, you have a few good options. I'm going to start from season 7 and work my way down.
Yeah, you got it.
You should check out Ramlethal. She's a bully. She has much better econ than Sagat, but has a lot of similar issues with regard to setting the opponent in the positions in which she is most advantageous. So she has some of Sagat's positioning dynamics, and also like is a character who is really good in the mid range where Sagat excels.
Okay.
Similarly, maybe check out Axel Lowe. He is, despite a lot of what his kit implies, another zoner that is actually very similar to Sagat in how he's built, where he is very mid range focused and has shockingly good melee tools.
Yep.
And the thing that he lacks that Sagat has is he doesn't really have great extreme range presence. He has extreme range presence in the form of 4 copies of a 3 to 8 2 5.
Which is not the
With
same as having
yeah,
infinity copies of Low Tiger Shot.
yeah, it's much worse.
Yeah.
So you will have to deal with that. But Ranges like 1 to 5 are pretty good with Axel, and he does a lot of really cool things in those ranges.
Yep, makes sense.
Maybe check out Happy Chaos, who does literally have low Tiger Shot. It isn't loopable, but it does hit for um what, like 6 with ignore armor or something like that. It hits for a lot.
Yep. Oh, you're talking
And
about
also he
steady aim?
yeah.
Yeah.
And also he has like a lot of Sagat's properties of like I have decent melee and like good zoning, and I can like do both, but I have to like play a resource management minigame. I personally don't like Happy Chaos that much, but I do understand intellectually that he is a character that at least has some of Sagat's appeal. I
Yep.
personally don't find that he does enough damage for my tastes.
Yep. Makes sense.
Also like obligatory, like check out Shotos, check out Soul, check out Kai, check out Jin, Ragna, Noel. Not all these characters are gonna hit the same appeal, but like also check out Bang because he's epic.
Yep. Can confirm.
Uh, anyways, back to our reverse season order, season 6. I am I am not the person that understands season 6 the best, so it's hard for me to recommend characters out of season 6. Um, it might be worth looking at like Batista. It's funny to say this, but I don't think the zoners in season 6 actually hit a lot of the same appeal as Sagat. So I would mostly check out Batista. And then like maybe look at Phonon and Hilda, but like be warned that I don't actually think they hit similar appeals. Also like maybe Gordo, but Gordo is doing Gordo things, even though he does
Yeah.
have some of Sagat's kit properties.
Yeah. No, nobody quite gets there, I feel like, for exactly what Sagat is doing, which is fine, right? It's a pretty specific archetype in Exceed. Like it's not even a zoner, it's like a particular uh brand of really super big buff zoner.
Yeah. Anyways, moving into Blaze Blue. Obviously, we don't have any big buff burly men except for like Bang and Tager, who like are big, although Bang isn't actually that big in design. But he does have some similar
He
properties of
he,
play
he,
the
he
things that aren't
he's
tape.
just loud. He's not
Yeah, he's very loud.
he's yeah, he's big in personality.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, like the specific characters that I think would be worth checking out is you mentioned her like right off the drop, but Rachel Alucard I think is very similar in design to Sagat and also very fun.
Yeah, she's
The big
sick.
thing that she has that is different to Sagat is that she has a lot more mobility contained within her kits because of how her ability works. Uh, but it won't feel like it in practice.
Oh yeah, because
she she
she is
struggles for positioning in much the same way that Scott does,
yeah,
despite being able to theoretically pick where she is at all times.
she is the budget character.
Also Kokonoe, another very awesome zoner design that has a lot of similar appeals to Sagat. She is kind of like the cross section of like a character like Sea Viper and Sagat, where
Ooh,
like I have like really cool boost things I can do, that's like a big part of my game plan. But I also have like decent melee tools, and then also like a bit of zoning that I can do to make it so the opponent can't just run away from me doing my shenanigans.
right.
So like if you wanted a Sagat that was more overtly look how epic I am with my cool tools, then Kokonoe might be for you.
Okay.
And then I don't know, if you're a tryhard, you can play Nine. She's kind of like if Sagat and Ryu were mixed together and then had like the world's slowest recursion engine. So like if that's what you want, then check out Nine the Phantom.
Makes sense.
Lychee is a character that has strong melee tools and strong ranged presence. That means the opponent can't run away from you. Her strong range presence is a bit more committal to actually get set up, but it is really good in exchange for that. She also has pocket advantage chains like Sagat does. So if you're looking for a character that can kind of just do everything, including zone, Lychee might be for you. But my top picks from this set would be Rachel, Kokonoe, and Nine in some order.
Right. Okay.
Season 4, obligatory like check out Propeller. He doesn't actually play much like Sagat, but he is another like fundamentals oriented counterplay character. Fight, if you don't mind playing a character that is very cheap. Fight is another character that is kind of shitty mobility, but really competent melee and also very scary zoning.
Yep. That all tracks with what I know about fight.
Within Street Fighter itself,
Sagat.
yeah, mostly just like yeah, you should check out Sagat. He's really cool. And then like obligatory, like maybe check out Ken, Ryu, Guile.
Guile. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of Vega because Vega is also like resource oriented. If you like the parts where Sagat is a giant bully, then like check out M Bison.
Yep.
If you want to pretend you're making resource management decisions, but instead you're just hitting the opponent with lots of stats, maybe check out Zangief.
No, yeah, that sounds right.
Anyways, on to season two.
Really isn't anybody.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's Equus. You got your Tiger and Dragon style.
Yeah.
Um, I'm thinking if anyone else really fits. Jeffrey, to a degree, he has like Sagat's zoning profile. He has a lot of issues that make it hard for me to want to recommend him because I don't think people should play Jeffrey.
Yep.
I also think he's just like not actually a very fun character to play. Is the other big issue. If you like the part of Sagat where you make resource management decisions and then they were wrong and you find out about that like 5 turns later as you lose the game, maybe check out like Remulus.
Yep.
Um,
This all tracks. Like this is that is a incredibly accurate description of how I in particular play Remulus.
if you liked the part where after playing Sagat you played on Bison, you're like, damn, this guy's sick. You should maybe check out Seijun.
Yep. What about Red Horizon? I feel like
Oh, also Cyrus. Cyrus is not exactly Sagat's playstyle, but he is like a pretty fun, more mid range focused zoner
okay.
character.
Yep.
He's
That
way
makes
more mobile
sense.
than Scott though, but like he's kind of where like Rachel is as far as that goes.
Yep.
I think his resource management decisions are a bit less interesting, but he still is cool.
Yep. Definitely.
Heidi. Heidi is the big standout here, where I
Okay.
think she actually does feel a lot like Scott. And if you're willing to play a character that is probably overpowered, maybe check out like Mei Lian, who I think also has a lot of Scott's appeal.
Right.
Um, so much so that I actually in my one of my sets that I designed made a character that had Mei ability, part of Mei ability, not her entire ability, and then also was like shaped like Sagat in terms of like overall kit.
Okay.
So
Makes
like I
sense.
think I think there is actually a lot of overlap here between Mei and Sagat in terms of heal.
Yeah. Just melee and
Um,
responsibly. She's not something you
yeah,
want to inflict on a unsuspecting opponent.
there also is like kind of similar appeal in Ulrich, but he's a little bit different. He's rather than being a zoner that is shockingly good in melee, he's a melee asshole dude that's shockingly good at range.
Yep. No,
And
that
then
all
also
tracks.
if you like played Nine the Phantom and you're like, damn, this part where I have the world's slowest recursion engine is great, you might want to check out like Zoe, but also don't do that.
Yeah. Same reason as Joffrey. Like that's no fun. Um what about Devris? Not really a melee guy, but definitely controls the mid range, definitely has a really scary projectile, has a
Why did I
totally
not think of
different
Devers? That
relationship.
character's fucking awesome. You're right. You should
Has
also
a
check out Devers.
Yeah, Devers is fun. Has a totally different resource game than Sagat, but like the experience of Devers and my experience is like feeling like you have way too much force and then you spend on one boost and you're broke. So it's kind of
Yeah,
similar.
so the commonality between all of them, and this is also why I recommended M Bison, is Sagat is kind of a boss character in design. So like Devers is a boss character. He's a very traditional boss character in how he's designed. And then like Seijun, M Bison, going back over to season 7, Ramlethal,
Yep.
Happy
Happy
Chaos.
Chaos. Yep.
Like if the part of Sagat that you really respond to and like is the part where he's a giant bully, um, then I would look into the other boss characters, which is like Devris, Seijun, M Bison, Enchantress, which is a very different kind of character, but also is still a big old bully.
Yep.
Nine the Phantom, New, uh, Hakumen,
Yep.
Hazama, but he's so different that it's really hard to recommend him.
Yeah, they're all going to give you
Uh,
different flavors of that. Like, I am a challenge for my opponent to overcome. I am an obstacle for them to defeat.
this is
Vibe
where
that.
like the Phonon Hilda appeal might
Yep.
lie. Is those characters definitely are just straight up bullies.
Yep. That makes sense.
Um, Testament, Happy Chaos, uh, Ramlethal, obviously, Nago.
Yeah, it's like if Exceed as a simulationist enterprise is doing its job well, which it often is, but sometimes isn't. If the character is like a jerk in source or like mean in source, they might have something in common with Sagat. If
Yeah,
the
and
designers are
it's
doing
worth
their job.
noting that like a lot of the characters that I listed, especially from Guilty Gear and Sagat himself, aren't actually necessarily that mean anymore.
Yeah,
But
sure.
they were at one point the boss of their game.
Yeah,
Sagat is the boss from Street Fighter One, and he is the penultimate boss in Street Fighter Two. Oh, and
yeah,
also like Vega fits in that. And then like if we ever got Balrog, the Street Fighter character, he would also fit that.
yep,
Akuma similarly is like a bossy kind of design. And then like all these Guilty Gear characters, and then like also add like Dizzy in here and like Justice, but also they're never gonna put Justice in anything ever again. So
right, sure.
like all these characters were at some point boss characters, along with actually Jekko.
Oh
And like
yeah,
in that regard, they have aspects of their kit that are meant to feel overwhelming because they were at some point literally the challenge that you were supposed to fight at the end of arcade mode. And Hilda
right,
also fits that.
right, sure. That makes sense. Okay, so huge number of characters of many stripes, depending on what you exactly you like out of Sagat. If you're a fan of any of them, there's a decent chance that Sagat might be for you. If our exaltations of him and begging you to play him weren't enough reason to. If you like any of those characters, please check Sagat out. Um, Blue, anything else to mention before we wrap this up?
Um, I think at some point I was supposed to reference Puyo Puyo during this lesson. So if you do this into this, and then the opponent doesn't play against it, that's kind of like hitting a 4-chain. There we go.
We did it. We got there. Well, Blue, thank you so much. This has been a blast. It was just as good the second time. It
Hell yeah.
reminds me of my youth when I was first joining the Exceed community. Um, Super excited. We finally got back to this one. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise as always. Folks, I hope you learned something. Please go play Sagat. I will see you all for the second to last one. Uh, Good night, everybody.
Bye.